we move on to do a kind of a overhaul sort of reaction to a lot of the Premier League preseason teams tours. A lot of them tour in America, um, and most of them, besides like you know the ones that want to be weird, like Everton. Sean Dyke not wanting to do that. Um, but yeah, there's been some interesting games, sort of. Um, it's been a weird preseason. These sort of preseasons are always the difficult ones when you look at the fact that number one, number one, a lot of players are going to be coming in late because of Copa America and European Championships. And at the same time, you have some players that are probably that could be at the Olympic Games as well, currently playing. So really, it's an interesting scenario, but it's still some of these teams, it's still proper that they need to get this preseason in. The teams that have new managers, it's kind of harder. It makes it even harder to have a proper preseason because you really need everyone there to implement your styles and all that. So it makes it a little bit more difficult for the teams like and Liverpool and Chelsea. But yeah, we'll go deep by team by team. We'll start off with City, obviously. They had their preseason games. I believe they took on. Let me see. I'm trying to do this by memory. No, I'm not. Let's just search it up real quick. Actually, there's no way I know. So they took on Celtic, where they were lose to them 4-3. They lost to Milan 3-2. They lost to Barcelona on penalties 2-2. It was 2-2. They lost on penalties, and then they lose to Manchester. No, and then they beat Chelsea 4-2 in a game that Chelsea just gave them a few goals because of their new trying to play out of the back, all that. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, Haaland was able to continue on good form. I think he had a hat trick against Chelsea. City and Chelsea actually play each other on the opening day of the season. Yay for Chelsea. But yeah, a lot of City's young players were able to, really be involved in this, preseason campaign, which is good. It's good for their future. The likes of James McCarty, Rico Willis, Wilson Esbrand, James McCarty. And Guardiola was talking about how some of these players might be ready. A few of them will be ready for the senior team, which is good. That's what you want from these sort of preseason teams. You want to figure out. One of the more important things is to figure out which of these, youth players are ready to take that next step. But yeah, overall for Manchester City, these sort of preseason tours, that's all it is for them. Preseason tours, because they've kind of settled, and it's more important for the teams as new managers. Arsenal, they're able to add Calafiori into the team. That's the main thing, the biggest thing that happened for them in preseason. Being able to add Calafiori, give that versatile for a backline, brings in another guy to play versatile, multiple positions. He's going to make a huge difference. Also, Julian Timber, he's essentially a new signing in the fact that he's only played 3 games for Arsenal since he was signed by them. So he's essentially that's also a new signing. Julian Timber and Calafiori. And yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be really interesting to see how they mix and match with this back line, and whether or not that they go after a new player in this sort of window. If there's anything they deem necessary for them to take that next level to get past Manchester City, because it doesn't seem like City are gonna slow down. At least not for this following season. Liverpool. This is actually a team that I was interested in with preseason, because you want to understand. I wouldn't say I watched. So my throat is itching. I couldn't really say I watched much of Feyenoord under Arne Slot because I don't watch Eredivisie. No respect to Eredivisie, just not something I've watched, much. So something to be, interested to sort of see his style of play. I've heard the rumblings about, he's, similar Dutch football in terms of possession oriented. But he does have a little bit of flexibility in the fact that we saw some, in this sort of preseason, they're not scared to go long and be a little bit more direct. What you saw how they got that first goal against Manchester United. They're not afraid to be a little bit more direct if necessary. Obviously, they'd like to be that possession-oriented Dutch football, like a lot of like Ten Hag wants to play, like Guardiola wants to play, all that. But he's a little bit more adaptable, a little bit more versatile, a little bit more flexible, which is very good, which is a very good trait. They won every single games that they played, and they also beat Arsenal and Manchester United. But let's be for real, it's preseason. We're not gonna take it too seriously, the fact that they have a 100% record. But it's good that they're showing good signs, and the football looks pretty classy. And again, Darwin Nunez, McAllister, Luis Diaz, Allison, Joe Gomez, Trent Alexander, Cody Gakpo, Virgil van Dijk, any player that was involved for the Euros and Copa America essentially have not been involved at all in this summer tour. So, we haven't seen much. But again, the main thing is they have to, it's important for Arne Slot to really, get all these players in that short amount of time that they have to the start of the season kind of equipped. And it'll be interesting. Chelsea are on a transition, as always, with Enzo Maresca coming in after he replaced Pochettino, who left at the end of last season. Enzo Maresca, he was able to get Leicester City back into the Premier League a year after they were relegated. Maresca is also known for possession-oriented football, and he's also he also really likes playing out of the back. He loves playing out of the back, and he's part of the reason why Chelsea are willing to sell Gallagher, and the fact that Gallagher doesn't really fit that sort of possession-based style of system. Gallagher, he does some things really, really well, but that's not sort of his game. He's not the most technical of players when it comes to players on that level. So yeah, Enzo Maresca, you could see what he's trying to do with Chelsea, and I don't mind it because Chelsea have looked a little bit of a mess so far in preseason, especially trying to play out of the back. They've looked so disoriented, playing out of the back. It's been almost embarrassing. They take on Real Madrid tomorrow, which I'll be tuning in more of. But yeah, they've looked so compromised trying to play out of the back. But it just Enzo Maresca, he needs to be a little bit more adaptable, especially starting off the season with Chelsea, because you don't want to start off the opening season against Manchester City and lose 4-5-0. You don't want to do that. And I understand, managers, they want to come in and they want to, they don't want to put a plan B if plan A doesn't work. They just want to make plan A better. I remember when Emre, when he was first at Arsenal, that first season, they conceded a lot of goals trying to play out of the back because they didn't have center backs that were comfortable on the ball. They didn't have a goalkeeper that was comfortable on the ball, and they lost the possession of the ball in their own half many times. And Unai Emery was kind of at a crossroads. Okay, do I change my system because I don't have the players to do this, or do I just figure do I just let them make the mistakes and eventually get the players in when the players come in. But Chelsea have had a lot of frustrating starts, and it's kind of weighed down throughout the season, the past 2 seasons. A frustrating start is weighed through them for the rest of the season. So I don't really think these set of players, and there's not enough experience with this within this team to really start off the way that they've started off in the past and be able to rise above it. They failed the last 2 seasons. They're more inexperienced now with Thiago Silva leaving the club. So, I think he has to be more adaptable with this team, especially when it comes to playing out of the back. Unless he believes some of the players that have not been involved because of Copa America, because of European Championship, because of Olympics, which Chelsea don't have anybody involved from the Olympic Games. Now that I think about it, yeah, nobody detrimental. So unless he thinks the players that haven't played up to this point can really make that difference, trying to play his sort of system, I think it's better if he's more adaptable. And then Manchester United, the main thing with them is, I'm not even worried about their preseason. Honestly, their preseason is whatever it is, whatever. It's the injuries in this team. I mean, 66 different injuries that United players suffered last season, and now, you start preseason. Højlund is out for 6 weeks. Lenioro, the new signing, the new center back that was going to come in and immediately be a starter, spending 62 million on him. He's ruled out for 3 months, more than just the start of the season, a majority of part of the first half of the season. You have the fact that Rashford, he suffered a nick. It's huge. These injuries, it's going to be huge. Lenioro puts them again at a very, delicate spot when it comes to their center halves, when it comes to their attackers. With Højlund being out, they don't really have a number 9. Joshua Zirkzee, okay, yes, he's a young guy with potential and all that, but this is a player that he was part of a Bologna team that was good, but he had 11 goals all season. The year before that, he had 2 goals in 19 matches. This is not a goal scorer. He's not going to come in and get double-digit goals for Manchester United. They'll be happy. That'll be a good outcome if he's able to get double-digit goals. That's not sort of his level at this point. He's a guy that you bring in to develop. He's similar to kind of Højlund. They don't have that recognized goal scorer that can come in and score goals game in, game out. I think there's big issues with Manchester United. And it's up for Ten Hag to solve it, or else he'll be out of there. He'll be the first manager to go this Premier League season.